We've all wanted to be able to learn something new, whether that is for a test or just to expand our current knowledge and skill sets. Maybe you want to expand your knowledge in algebra, or maybe you want to learn how to send up rockets into space like Elon Musk. No matter what you'd like to learn, the method we are going to cover today can be applied to anything. Often the things we want to learn can be hard to remember and difficult to really understand. But luckily for all of us, we have a certified genius to help us out. The man who will be helping us today was a Nobel Prize winner in physics, leader in nanotechnology, and even worked on the atomic bomb. Today on our quest to become real-life masterminds, or maybe just to pass a test, we will be using the method known as the Feynman Technique by physicist Richard Feynman. Welcome to the channel, where we cover the topics of self-improvement, entrepreneurship, and popular tech. If you're interested in these topics, consider subscribing. Now, let's learn how to learn. Feynman developed the method of learning anything as he pursued to popularize science to the public. While he did form this method to help common folk to understand the complexities of science, this method does work for any subject. Most of us have been in the situation where we say we know something and think we are very knowledgeable of the subject until someone asks us to explain what we mean. And we can't, because we don't truly understand the topic we're talking about. This was perfectly quoted by Mortimer Adler. The person who says he knows what he thinks but cannot express it usually does not know what he thinks. It's easy to seem like we know something until we are asked to break it down. This situation would lead Feynman to say that you don't truly understand what you're talking about. Feynman's technique is all about being able to explain a subject in the simplest terms while having a deep understanding of the topic and being able to pass on that knowledge to the person you're explaining it to. Feynman believed that we are often able to explain things in complex words and terms, but we really don't understand what we're talking about and are just regurgitating what we read or have heard previously. He believed that there is a huge difference in knowing something and truly knowing something thoroughly. The issue of fooling ourselves into thinking we're experts of a certain topic seems to have been around for a long time. As Oscar Wilde once said, "I am so clever that sometimes I don't understand a single word of what I am saying." It is one thing to have big words and phrases on hand to repeat, but what a difference it makes when you really know what you're talking about. It would seem that many brilliant minds throughout history agreed on the same understanding that if you can't break it down to its simplest and explain it thoroughly, you probably don't know the subject well enough. Albert Einstein once said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." So how do we become so knowledgeable in a subject that we can explain it simply? Let's get some help from Sir Richard Feynman. You start off by identifying the subject you're interested in learning and trying to be as specific as you can about the subject. Step 1 in Feynman's method is to write down everything you know about the topic you are studying. Step 2 is to simplify what you wrote down and break it down to its simplest form. It often helps to pretend that you're teaching this to a child. Feynman believed we often use words that are big and sound good, but by taking these complex words out, we can no longer hide behind them and must show our true understanding of a topic and explain it. By simplifying it and taking away the big words, we can now identify the parts of the topic we don't really understand. We also identify the parts that we can't explain in our own words. Step 3 is to identify the gaps in your explanation and review the source material you study to bring up those areas that you don't thoroughly understand. By identifying the parts of the subject you don't understand, you now know what parts you must study up on. Step 4 is to go through the process and fill in the gaps that you have had a hard time simplifying or don't understand completely. You can repeat this process until there is no longer a need to simplify or add anything. After you have ran through the process of going through the 4 steps until you are satisfied, it is great to go out and attempt to actually teach the topic to someone. This will allow you to see another person's perspective and allow them to question any areas that they may have found confusing. And if you can't answer their question in the easiest way for them to understand, well, it's back to the drawing board. There's a huge difference between explaining things with big complex words and explaining things in the most basic way possible and taking out all the wordiness and pretending to know what we're talking about. Feynman once said, "You can know the name of a bird in all the languages of the world, but when you're finished, you'll know absolutely nothing whatever about the bird. So let's look at the bird and see what it's doing. That's what counts." I learned very early the difference between knowing the name of something and knowing something. The goal is to know things, not to remember them. Remember, if we become knowledgeable of a subject, we should be able to break it down, and if we cannot, we must not properly have learned it. Even the genius himself, Feynman, has had topics he could not break down. Feynman was once asked to write a lecture on why 1/2 spin particles obey Fermi Dirac. This had Feynman return to the man who requested his lecture and say, "I can't do it. I mustn't understand it if I can't do it." This method is a humbling one, as it will expose the things you do not understand. Just to recap, Step 1. Write out all you know of your desired subject. Step 2. Simplify what you wrote. Remove all complex words and make them basic enough to teach a child. Step 3. Identify the areas that you cannot explain in basic terms and review your source material and fill in the gaps. Step 4. Fill the gaps and repeat the process until you have no problem breaking a topic down into its simplest form. I hope this method can help you become even more brilliant than you already are and expand your knowledge in anything you are pursuing. I'd love to hear what you plan on applying the Feynman method to down below. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video.